Oh, the drip Goku. All right. E4, E6. We got the French coming out here, and which line are we gonna get? It's the advance. It's that dang advance, right? We see it all the time. Now, if you want, when people don't play C3, you can play knight C6, you can play queen B6, you can transpose back. I'm just gonna say, my general rule is if Buddy's not playing C3 to defend his pawn, take it immediately. Just take it off the board. I think there's a lot to be said for getting rid of that D pawn and threatening the looking to put pressure on the E pawn already, because without the support from the D pawn, I think it's pretty nice to do this. So we'll go knight C6. He's out there with the pin, which means we're probably gonna break it with bishop D7. Also notice that queen D4, isn't really doing anything, no tactics. Our moves so far are all moves that we've played in this opening so far. Knight here, bishop there. These are all normal moves. Now, instead of taking with the bishop, I'm definitely gonna be taking with the pawn. I wanna push this pawn to, let's say to C5. That'll be nice. Let's kick that knight out. Exactly, how are you gonna complain about getting to play the move C5 twice? This knight has a few options for where it wants to go. I think I'll go for knight C6. Knight B5 just isn't that dangerous just yet, but with the bishop here, there is potential for knight B5 to be kind of challenging here. So I'm gonna take care of knight B5 and put pressure on this pawn, probably with a move like rook B8. I'm just deciding, do I want to go queen B6 or do I want to go rook B8? And I'm thinking that I'm gonna go rook B8 here. Pressure on that. E3 or rook B1, doesn't matter. Let's continue with bishop E7, so I'm getting developed here. Now A4. Guess what our opponent's doing here? In the previous position, here's the thing. If I go A6, right, permanently stop that. That's great. But I can also make a move like this or this, where I'm getting my piece developed at the exact same time. So it's way more useful to do this. But then you might be asking, okay, well, after A4 now, and I am gonna play A6, how come I'm playing A6? Well, now the moves that I've traded are A4 for A6. I'm not just wasting a move playing A6 for no reason. My opponent's played this. I don't think A4 is a good move. So I'm happy to play A6 now. Stop knight B5 for good. But just by playing rook B8 or queen B6, got my opponent to play A4. I don't think it's a good move. Giving up some squares there, rook B4, and yeah, this idea just isn't happening. H3, solid move. I think this is where we're gonna get castled. Rook E8, queen out to B6 or A5. Looks normal here. Any type of knight takes pawn, E6, trick, it's really just not working, to be quite honest with you. I'm trying to understand this move. Almost looks like a mouse slip. Because usually this move, instead of that move, you're looking at these two diagonals, but I just don't see any reason right now why those diagonals would be relevant. I really don't. Well, I'm just gonna develop here and play rook E8. Still trying to figure that move out. H4, okay. I don't know if he thinks that his queen is kind of protecting that, but free pawns are free pawns. I don't discriminate. Here we go. Okay, we take G3. We'll just drop right back. He's not even gonna get rid of my bishop pair there. I'll take it. I'll take it. E3. So he's solidifying, but I think he's gonna need to do more than that. Let's have a look-see. I'm actually looking at h6 g5, believe it or not. Believe it or not. I'm gonna start with queen a5. If I play d4 and get a queen trade, happy to do that. I'm up a pawn here. This is also just developing. Knight takes d5, I can take it back because my queen's protected, so not too worried there. We got the bishop back. Now I'll retreat my queen to hit this pawn, and I think he played a little hastily there because now we can take this pawn. And this should be very nice for me now. I'm up a couple pawns, and on top of that, there's central pawns. Here, he does have f4, but I still think f6 is a decent move, and if he moves the knight somewhere else, then knight f3 hurts. But f4 is not the craziest move to find. Then we'll drop the knight back. But yeah, at least our move gives him a chance to blunder, which he did. I also think, like, you know, d4, e5, once we get these pawns rolling, gotta be happy. In that knight, threatening f5, careful. Probably gonna play f3. And my plan is to play e5, c4, and unfortunately his move was not too helpful for getting out of that pin. Wow, okay, he's sacking. c4 is gonna be the good move for me to break through. We should be able to clean up this position. Jack. I think I can use the fact that I'm up so much material to my advantage here and play the move rook c3. I mean, it looks like a mistake, but my position is actually a lot easier to win without his knight on the board rather than me with a larger material advantage. So let's escort this guy down the board. We got the security tape here. Check. And mate. And mate. GG to the drip Goku. Not a bad start. Always important to win the first game of the day. Hey, look, if you're playing a French and your opponent does not play c3, take it immediately. Like, there's something to be said for knight c6 here, but it's just gonna transpose back to the main lines. I think you can take advantage of lazy moves like this and just take here. Because okay, knight takes d4 has to happen, and that pawn is a little bit weaker. And if they ever take on c6 with the bishop or the knight, you get to play your pawn to c5 again. I mean, remember, this is an opening where white got both pawns in the center, played e5, got even more space, and then we fast forward like 10 moves, and you know, black's the one that actually controls way more of this center. All right, time for e6. Doesn't look like it'll be a French specifically here, but it does look like our opponent wants to set up stuff like that. Just gonna keep it real chill here. Nice and easy development, get castled. It's move 5. King is nice and safe, I like that. Let's play c5, knight c6. So in positions like this, I think for the most part, you kind of want to avoid playing d4 and allowing e4 to happen. That's what the opponent wants. When I see this, I'm definitely looking at knight b4. Okay, bishop d1 is a bit of a strange move to play. and it might be necessary. I'd love to play e5. If that's possible, then fantastic. So I'm looking at bishop d6 or queen c7, followed by e5. Let's do it. Let's do it. Going for e5 here. Rook e8's another great move for e5. Knight h2. I'm not seeing any opposition to my plan, so let's push it through. Okay, he's got f5. I'm almost certainly going to play e4 here. Not that I want to play bishop takes h2, but I love the open diagonal there. Knight g4. Not really a big time threat. Knight takes, we can take back. My knight b4 move from earlier is actually reasonably strong now because bishop d1 to defend it. I'm not sure how comfortable that is. Pawn takes, knight takes d3, and knight a3 absolutely takes care of this, but then your knight's on a3. It's not a great square. So if I get my knight here and put white's knight on a3, I think I'd be okay with that. There's also something to be said for taking now. If the bishop takes, maybe the pawn gets lost, so the pawn would have to recapture. These just little things, they're adding up. Okay, let's go queen here. Perhaps queen h6 with devastating impact. This all stemmed from one plan, which was e5. Now, admittedly, knight b4 is not the most obvious move to come across, but I'm just used to these setups where white plays queen e1 to slide the queen over, that the tender square in the position is actually that pawn on c2. So I wanted to at least force bishop d1. In the end, I got knight a3, which is great because the main way to kick my knight out of this square is a3. So whenever you get your opponent to react to your knight move with knight a3 like that, they can't actually remove you anymore. c3, you take this pawn. So I've got my knight anchored there for the rest of the game. And meanwhile, white's knight on a3 does not look great. Okay, this is a pretty good move in the sense that he has king g2, rook h1 on queen h6. That's good. I'm looking at h5 and g6. Both moves look to soften up these pawns here. Which one do we like more? Let's go for g6. This bishop, I mean, I could develop it, bring the rook over. That would be good. But I was looking to put pressure on this pawn here. Whether I did h6 or g6, sorry, h5 or g6, both had the same idea, you know? Neither pawn could really be taken because it would be too dangerous. So look out for this pawn here. g3 is hanging and d3 is hanging. And the annoying part is if he goes king g2 to guard this, and I take this pawn, if he recaptures, I hit the queen, I'm covering f2 with the knight, and that queen, if it doesn't have f2, is not going to be able to guard g3. So actually, pawn takes back would be basically losing here. And although this pawn looks a little bit scary, it's not really that bad. Let's take this. I think knight takes c2. Although I have queen e4 to win a piece, knight c2 is actually well met by just knight takes, right? And queen g3 stuff. So I have two very, very strong options there. Queen f3, again, pretty good move. Like, can't hate on the way he's playing. He's trying to defend here. He's far behind at this point. I don't mind trading. And knight's really good here. Expecting him to try to go like that. Let's go d4 to maybe try to connect our pawns. Might be a long shot, but we'll do it. Now we have an open c file to support that guy. Maybe d3 coming. Knight c4. At least our pawn's not attacked anymore. Where do we put this bishop? c5? Or actually rook d8 looks fine as well. Okay, bring the knight back. Something like rook c8 next, or knight e3. As long as I keep one of these pawns, I think we're in a good spot here. This pawn, I admit, it's still annoying, but I know that his pieces are so far from actually being able to take advantage of it. D5 is available here, which looks fairly decent. Should end up some pawns here. Not sure how many, but a few pawns. Takes, maybe grab f6. And the fact that we're about to queen a pawn means that any kind of tactics that he's looking to play will probably not work. Oh, that was a strong move. Holy cow. Didn't see that. I was thinking he was forced to take me. Man, great move. He got my c-pawn on c4, and he's guaranteed to get my c-pawn on c2. I think now we've got to go into blockade mode. I think we're up so many pawns that we're still up a pawn, which is just lucky, honestly. Because that wasn't planned. Trying to bring our king to the middle. Don't know about that move. I was a little apprehensive to take with my pawn on a dark square. Didn't want to allow rook and just pre-move on the light squares. I didn't want to allow bishop d4 actually at the end there. Black pieces. Look at the French. Are we gonna see e5 or takes? Most people take. Exchange French, so common, which is why it's important to have a, it's important to have a line against the exchange French. Another line that I like to do, which I suppose I'll show you now, it's not too difficult. If I see someone playing knight c3 and knight f3, I know that his position is simply not going to be as solid as mine if I play c6. Like c6 feels nice. Knight on c3 doesn't do very well against the pawn on c6, so I'm going to choose a nice safe one here. Same side castling. c6, we want to go bishop g4. He jumped the knight in, I would say relatively early. Let's swing a rook to e8. I mean, I'm making a not so conspicuous threat. I think it's time to just keep piling on, basically. Knight d7. If bishop f4, then I think queen c7. That's a weird move. Thought maybe knight takes d7. So here I can actually win every piece. Rook takes e1, knight g4, and bishop f4 will and already are hanging. They will be hanging, and they already are. Question is, which one do I want? And usually the answer is going to be the bishop. So we'll start with this, check. Then I'll take the bishop, and if knight takes knight, knight takes, there is no queen e8 mate, which is the only thing that's important to notice. Yeah, there were many free pieces there. I could have also taken the free knight on g4 if I wanted to. And once we move this bishop, which now looks like bishop h3 will be a great move, then we can bring the rook over. And if I had to ask you guys, what escape square am I going to make for my king, what would you say? I'll play bishop h3. Rook e8 looks good. Dark square, that's right, g6. Yeah, g6 feels the best. It's like queen e7. I think there's a chance, you know, this knight moves and we get a queen e1 checkmate idea. For example, knight f4. It's really logical. So I'm doing this to set it up. That's a nice move by him. Just kind of annoying for my whole idea down there. I'm not really gonna get to do it. So I'm gonna play queen e6 to keep the hope alive. Knight f4 now. Oh, my heart. Buddy, stop that. Yo, scared me for a second. Almost thought it worked. Oh, he's friendly. He's friendly. There we go. GG Nelson. Yeah, you guys were right. When I was asking about an escape square, absolutely it would be on a dark square. My opponent has a light squared bishop. I want to play g6. It's going to blunt the bishop and give my king a nice safe square. If I play h6, for example, I'm still threatened with back rank mate because that doesn't even help. All right, continue. When I mentioned my French setup, look, we've been talking about this one for a while. This is a great setup, but simply going for c6 and just basic development, I mean, that's always going to be good as well. So next game, hitting them with the French. As usual, we've seen knight f3 a lot. This usually results in the exchange, but we haven't seen e5 too much. Okay, e5 after c5. The thing is, they have the option to play d4 here. Again, I would immediately capture. If b4, okay, that's just a different story. We'll cross that bridge if and when we get there. But against c3, I'm gonna say, look, stick to what we know. Let's just play knight c6, queen b6, and then bishop d7, right? Let's not try to reinvent things. Let's just stick to what we know. Bishop d7, he's gonna take, we'll take back. And after this, should we be the most annoying person on planet Earth? Sure. A3. I'm thinking about playing A5, which I like to just tuck that bishop in. This guy is not going to be happy with his inability to castle. All right. A4. Drop the bishop back. B4. My goodness, he's rearing to go here. Unfortunately, it's not going to help. Right? You're not getting any closer to castling, bud. I'm sorry. Let's take it first of all. And after he takes back, I think there's a lot of good options. Like taking with the pawn is nice. His knight's never developing to those squares. Taking with the bishop and then bringing my knight out to c6 also looks very tempting. So I feel like I'm spoiled for choice here, but I'm gonna choose the pawn. I think it's a little bit better. Bishop there. Contemplating knight h6 now. Queen a5 as well. What do we like? Let's go rook c8. Queen b3, maybe this. Wow, knight g5. This guy's ultra aggressive here. Ultra aggressive. I mean, kind of want to play h6 now. All right, do your worst there, general. Do your worst. The queen out. I do want to play knight e7, knight c6, like really badly, but unfortunately my pawn's being attacked right now, so I'm defending it, so I hope I can play that. I thought that he might play queen b3. I was hoping he wouldn't, but you know, if I'm gonna be this annoying, I guess he's allowed to be annoying as well. He is. If rook c4, then he can actually castle, so I'm actually not that interested in playing rook c4. Strangely enough. He can't really move his knight here, but I can't move my knight here. We're at a crossroads. Two alphas, no one willing to budge. Unfortunately, bishop c4, queen b2, I don't think I'm gaining any ground. But I will go h5 to play knight h6 to f5. Ha! Now I've got something that I'm doing. What about you? He can play knight a3, but the problem is I'm not exactly sure what's happening after knight a3. Okay, bishop there. That's fine because now there's no threat here. He wants to move his knight, which I understand, but I'm not the most concerned about that, although it's a good move. Good move. He still can't castle. Man, he's got to be frustrated, right? He just has to be. No way he's not frustrated. Okay. Still no immediate threat. Let's put that rook in here on c3. I like this a lot more now because, okay, previously the rook was on a1, queen b2, couldn't really do anything, but now if queen b2, queen takes a4 is going to be devastating. It doesn't look like a big deal losing this pawn, but actually I'm about to play queen b5 and deliver mate, so he actually makes the right decision to try to hang on to that pawn as far as I can see. Pawn looks like, you know, pretty much unimportant, but I actually think it is really important. b5 allows him to castle, which so it's basically a non-option. No way. Let's go bishop here and take with the king, and then we can bring our rook over to c8 nice and quickly. Ooh, I spy the a pawn, followed by queen b5. This is a very good sign for me. We're not actually threatening mate by doing this, so I think we just take with the king. Now, queen takes. You know, he takes back somehow. I think we'll be okay. Queen b5. Knight takes bishop. He still can't castle, so I feel like we're still doing our job there. You know, our job at preventing him castling. That's the job. Let's go here. We'll take with the pawn. If he takes, pawn takes, we get a5, 2 connected pass pawns. I actually don't think he can do that. Our queen was attacked, so we had to bring it back. Something like rook, maybe c8. Man, that king is so unhappy. Yeah, now we get a5. Great feeling. Don't fall into this blunder. Queen d2, a5. Queen takes c3, believe it or not. Don't be blundering that, boy. So queen g5, we'll move our king. Let's say one of these two moves. We're not actually threatened with that much here. We could play f6. I think I'll even go, what should we do? Let's go king e8. If he takes and goes queen h8, I mean, that pawn's protected. That check doesn't do anything, we just sidestep. And yeah, I was gonna say, our next moves, we basically wanna play like rook c2, queen d3, and he's essentially helping us out here by giving us a free check. And he can't go there to run his king to that side, so he's actually just getting mated. Clock alert, don't worry. Mate alert first. Mate alert takes priority. Yeah, and for our next move, we want to play checkmate. That was a disaster for him because he couldn't castle. Now the thing is, he gave away his light squared bishop for seemingly no reason. Like, yeah, this is not a decision I would say is good, but important to remember in the opening. Didn't get too flustered after c3. Just stuck to the stuff we know, right? The French for us so far has consisted of playing these moves, knight c6, bishop d7, queen b6, and then we're winning. Like, as soon as we played all those moves in every French game so far, we've been winning. That's just how it's happened. Hello, Eddie. Let's keep it going. All right, it's gonna be maybe French with d4, but yeah, I've been seeing a lot of knight f3, and I definitely think knight f3 is gonna be common at this level. But here's something we haven't seen too much. The two knights, French. So what do we want to do against this? I'm gonna go knight f6, because if e5, he's basically playing the advance. But when I play c5, he doesn't have c3. So let's give this move a try. What? What on earth is this? All right, I'll take. As Yasser says, I'll fall for it. I mean, c5. c5 looks normal. Yeah, I don't know. Let's do it. Hit that. Huh. Some don't feel right about this one. So if I take, what are you really doing? What are you really doing? If you take me, I think you might have 2 knights hanging at some point. If you take here, I'm gonna need to see your answer to this move right here. Because you got a lot of hanging pieces, my buddy. My brethren. That's a lot of guys. Oh my goodness, not this move as well. Like this right here is a classic example of too many single guys in the club. Nobody's getting any action. 2 guys get kicked out and the other guy had to leave on his own. I've been there before, fellas. Oh my goodness, not King E2 as well. Oh Lord. Ugh. I mean, B6, Bishop A6 is damn near mate. But I have a feeling that this move is happening. So we have to get ready for F3. How do we get ready for F3? Maybe Knight D5. Knight D5 is great because Queen D3, And as I said, he's gonna play F3. Wouldn't it be fitting if all 3 guys got kicked out of the club? All right, we'll go with the French. We're playing the English with white and the French with black. We haven't seen this too often. The win hour, we're gonna be playing this, the whole speed run, so here we go. And after E5, hey, maybe you guys are familiar, C5's the main line, but guess what? 97's our main line. That's right, you and I, baby. We're interconnected here. What's the plan? Take. But instead of following up with C5 the way you might normally, Bishop A6. Get rid of that bishop and learn to play positional chess. I'm seeing all these dark square pawns. I'm seeing all these light squares for my pieces, for my knights. We're gonna look to take advantage of those. And don't be ashamed of bringing your knight back to B8. Guess what? It sucks out here. All right, go back. 1 step backwards, 2 steps forwards. There we go. Our knight wants to go to C4 eventually, so that's the idea. Eyeballing that. Okay, bishop G5. I suppose starting with H6 is probably not crazy. If you want to take me, go ahead. If you don't want to take me, go ahead. I think he might come to regret that, but I've got a great stronghold grip on the C4 square. So now we're playing G5, probably playing Knight F5, and starting to get rolling on the other side of the board. All right, so we'll play moves like Knight F5, Queen D7, and we will not expect moves like this. What on earth is Knight takes G5? Gosh darn it. All right, well, we're gonna be up a piece here. Can't complain about that. Queen D7, I think, is the one we want to go for. Queen D7 and basically castle, right? Nothing wrong with that. Bishop F6, like more or less Rook G8. Queen here, castle. We'll make it work. Could play Rook here or Knight back. I'm more attracted to Rook here. I guess the other one is Knight F5, which is kind of nice. Like this. Take my Rook, I take your Queen. Take my Queen. Oh, my friend. When there's a Bishop and a Queen, and both can be captured, I'm gonna make the easy decision. All right, how are we gonna take advantage now? Let's start by bringing the knight in. I know it's tempting to just bring the queen, go for the quick mate, but I don't want to forget about this knight. I think he's gonna play an instrumental role in delivering this eventual mate. Don't forget about this guy. Use all your pieces. It's always an important point to remember that when you're ahead material, and it means you have an advantage. But if I have 10 pieces and you have 9 and they're all equal value, if I have 10, I have an advantage. But I only have an advantage by using all 10. If I'm only using 9 of them, or God forbid I'm using 6 of them, I might actually feel like I'm at a disadvantage. So if my knight's sitting over here, I'm not actually realizing the whole advantage that I have. I mean, what's the point of the extra knight if you're not gonna bring it into the action? You have to bring it into play to use the damn thing. Knight d2, here's a good example. Check. Check, buddy. Now I'm gonna threaten mate. Don't blink or you'll miss it. Mate in one coming. Did I say mate in one? What I meant was forced mate. Chess.com immediately said, this guy's too good. Let's get him out of the wood division. That was an immediate, it's like game over. They're like, send this guy to the wood division. The hell's going on here? Take me back. Take me back. Hey, we're in the wood division. And I think that's apropos because that's something that I think a lot of people can relate to. Not because you guys are there as well. No. I didn't mean that way. I just meant that everyone's probably got some wood while they're watching this stream right now. Thinking, goddamn, he's that handsome and he can teach me how to play chess? Oh my god. I'm bricked up on a casual Friday. Woulda hurt. Woulda hurt. Very nicely done though. Important to remember to use all your pieces. We're gonna go for another game. We got 10 more points to 1300. Thank you to the GOAT USA. 6 months from the GOAT. Thank you very much. There we go. Another 5-minuter. We're using the French every single time with the black pieces. French defense. Are we gonna see d4 or knight f3? I've been seeing knight f3 a lot. It's quite common here. I can say I haven't seen knight c3, but it might transpose. French exchange, yawn. All right, we're just gonna go for a simple setup here. Nothing fancy. Oh, interesting. You wanna tickle me? I'm not giving you my bishop for free. No way. Get castled here. Get out of dodge. And we can boot this guy out with c6. I see a lot of French exchange, especially at these rating levels. Okay, we'll ask you kindly to leave. Please and thank you. Bring my knight into the game. Maybe if he goes d4, might even be so kind, but I'm looking at e6. Something like knight e6. You know, if bishop there, I got d4. And if bishop here, I might go knight h5, just to try to claim the bishop pair. In symmetrical positions, you want to just, you know, play quick, solid moves, but take any small advantage you can get, like double pawns or, you know, maybe bishop pair. Okay, b4 I don't mind seeing. Why? Because knight e6 I said I was on the way to do. Plus, you might not even realize that pawn's now under attack. I'm putting my rook on an open file. I didn't even calculate this move. I didn't think about it. I didn't think, oh, I have some idea. No, this is just called instinct. You just know there's only one fully open file on the board. If white just, played this move instead of b4, that would have been one of the best moves. You just know that the rook belongs on the open file. So you just put it there. No calculation. Those are going to be the freebies. And you're not going to have many freebies in chess. All right, knight e5 was played. He's blundering a central pawn, and my great well-placed rook on the open file is now threatening to win a free piece. Now, if he saves his piece and let's say moves back to f3, then I might use my nice well-placed rook on the open file and use the fact that it's attacking the bishop on e2 and play bishop takes c3, which defends my knight on d4. And after bishop takes c3, I might play knight takes e2, supported by my great rook on the open file, to win another piece on c3. Oh, wouldn't that be special? Rook on the open file does everything. It's not rocket science. Rook to the open file, put it there, good things will happen. We made it to the end of another video on the French defense. I hope you learned something. Leave a comment down below. What did you think was the most important thing to remember from this video? Subscribe if you haven't already, and a reminder to click that bell to turn on post notifications so you don't miss our next video.